And so explain, you start with 3 plants, you start with your, the 45 trucks as you're working. And then at some point, came the opportunity that we mentioned earlier where it's like, okay, let's think outside the box and do something that's a little bit different. We may have a remote facility for a large company that's not in the city of Cincinnati. So we can set up a temp plant or, remote plants. So, what was the complexity of starting up remote plants in other areas? And then how quick did you get those up and running?
So it started on a pretty small scale. So actually, I'm going to tell another story about kind of blindly running into something. So, but you're either just going to think I'm a really lucky guy, or you're going to think that we figured out stuff.
Hard work, Lisa Luck, and anyone listening. I mean, as I interrupt you here, but when you think about starting a new venture, and if you have, that 90 days working 100 hours where you're borrowing $10 million and you have, 25 people coming on board, I mean, that is a major risk. That's a major venture. I mean, this is not something that's so much lucky as it is. It's targeted, but there's hard work behind it.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I've always said you make your own luck, and I think most people understand what that means. But I on the golf course, I'd always rather be lucky than good. But
always,
most of the rest of the time, I'm going to figure out how to make our own luck. But how it actually started was we had one of our plants was on the Ohio River near downtown Cincinnati, and we ordered 3 of the exact same plants. They were conventional plants that sit on big foundations and high up in the air. And we got to the site down on the river, and we did the soil tests and found that the foundation was going to cost more than the plant itself because it was all next to the river and fill and crap. And so we stopped and said, wait a minute, we can't do that. It's not in the plan. And we went and talked to a different type of plant manufacturer and worked with them and came up with a plant that was essentially a mobile plant that was meant to be towed around the country and put up quick. And it cost a little bit more money, but it didn't cost as much as its foundation. So we bought that plant, and we got some experience and saw what it could do, and was kind of impressed with it. And then about a year in, we had an opportunity to do a big, about 1.5 million square foot warehouse, Walmart warehouse, with a contractor who said, we just don't like the local guy. It's about 2 hours outside of the market we were in at the time, around Cincinnati. And the contractor said, we just don't trust the local guy that bid it. Do you want to take a look at it? And again, we're kind of starting out. I said, yeah, sure, we'll take a look at it. And we went out and looked at it. And it actually required 2 plants on site. And we figured out how to do it, bid it with a little extra money in it. Thought if we're going to do it, we need to make a little extra money, and actually got that job, which meant we bought 2 more plants, 2 more of these mobile plants. And that was our first mobile job. And from there, it kind of, we continued to look at, I'd call them, just bigger, harder, more challenging mobile jobs where we would be adding different types of equipment or different expertise within our company. And it became then a significant part of our business. It was something that was actually, we called it our national division. So we started out headquartered in Cincinnati with 3 plants, and our mobile division, our national division, we did business, Brad, you're in Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
So we did, there's about a 2 million square foot Target warehouse in Tucson we did.
Wow.
What are we doing in Tucson, Arizona? A little guy from Cincinnati, but it was another one of those things where, the local guys didn't necessarily want it, or it didn't fit, or they were concerned about mostly about the production schedule at the time, which was going to be, for those of you, in the construction industry, there were about 2,000 cubic yard pours in the middle of the night, every night. And so the local guys are like, we don't want to do that. We got our regular business. And so that was typical of our early opportunities, where we were doing big warehouse, big huge pours. But it eventually worked into where we were doing much tighter, harder spec jobs, and we ended up doing a lot of work under FAA specs or Corps of Engineers specs. We did the Bristol Motor Speedway, where those are some of the steepest bank turns on a racetrack. You got to figure out a way to keep concrete on whatever it is, a 32-degree banking. I mean, the banking, I went out there. I remember when we went to that job the first time, I was on the infield of the track, and you'd stand in those corners. And you know, I'm a pretty big guy. I'm 6'5", and I got long arms, but I'd stand at the bottom of those turns and put my arm out in front of me and just lean forward a little bit and touch the curve, touch the track above me. I mean, those are the kind of things that were just a lot of fun and drove us to seek those things out, or to go ahead and look at those opportunities, mostly because we were always making profits that were, you know, 2.5 times what we'd make at home. So it was lucrative.